you ever felt.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, man. So there you go. I think we got it. How's your trip down the way?
Everything was fine, man.
Yeah.
Did the 3 work for you?
Did the who work for me?
The E3.
E3. What are you talking about?
The E3 that you set up, the E3.
The E3 that I set up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused. I have
on
no
your
idea.
TV.
Oh, yeah, that worked perfectly. So I got that. And then I went back in and I noticed that, it's got the regular
Yes.
channel. Then you got the plus. When I went to plus, that's where I found the South Alabama game.
Right.
And I found some more games. So it was like this whole list of games
Yes.
on ESPN. Then when I went to plus, it was just another whole list of games that were kind of, I won't say call them second tier games, but it was they had all the stuff leading into all the games going out west.
I think Miles and Alabama State played on 3, if I'm not mistaken.
On 3 or plus?
I'm on plus. I'm sorry, plus. I don't know why. Did I say I said E3 last time too, didn't I?
Yeah.
Now I see. Yeah, I meant E plus. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I said 3.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I found that, man, it was perfect. So I got everything. And that's why I started watching South Alabama Southern Miss game, which was a pretty good game.
Yeah.
All told. And then I went back and watched a couple of more. So I guess we could start on the one that we talked about. We were going to kind of try to watch both together, which was the UAB Jacksonville State game.
Yes.
So what was your initial takeaways from that game?
I think UAB. I don't know if they. I think they knew that they'll beat Jacksonville State because Jacksonville State is a FCS. But I really don't think UAB put everything into that game. And you
You
can
think
still
so?
see the result. I don't think they put everything into that game.
Yeah, I mean, so I watched it. I think UAB is pretty good. I think the quarterback, I think Tyler Johnson's going to be okay. I mean, he's got a pretty big arm, and he's mobile. I mean, I don't know how. So as I look at UAB, so when I start going through their schedule. So next up, they got Georgia.
Yes.
Right. So obviously that's the for lack of a better term, that's the money grab for the season. Right. So that's what's going to put the going to have the program go along for the rest of the year, right? So that's the money for the season. But then they have a pretty decent schedule after that, if I understand that that conference. So they got Georgia, then they go to North Texas, then they have Tulane, Liberty. They got Florida Atlantic. I don't know how good Florida Atlantic is this year. They lost to Florida, but that's, you can't really tell from that kind of game like that because Florida's kind of powerful. Then they got Southern Miss again, which kind of, so they're doing like a home and home.
No. That was South Alabama that played Southern Miss.
South Alabama plays Southern Miss. Okay, all right. So that's that's why I'm looking at this kind of weird. Okay, then you got Rice, which Rice is I don't know how good Rice is. Louisiana Tech played pretty well the other day.
Yes.
You got Marshall, UTSA, then UTEP. So I mean, you look at the schedule and I think that I saw a little bit from them that I thought was going to be. I thought they looked pretty good. So they may be able to make some noise this year.
Yes, because They won the conference championship last year, and
Yeah.
they returned all these starters. And they won the conference with basically a backup quarterback
Yeah.
because Johnston was hurt early in the year. So
Okay.
now he's healthy. They have a healthy quarterback. The top running back in the conference, I think he got cut by the Eagles, but it was Spencer Brown. He was good.
Okay.
But they had like 3 or 4 other backs that was just as good as him. So
Now, do
I,
you have some concerns about their backs? Because I mean, I look at Jermaine Brown. You know, he's small. He's a slasher. They
yes,
got him listed at 5'8", 185. That's program height. He's
no,
not that
no, no.
big.
I say he's about 5'7", about 165, something like
Yeah,
that. So,
he's definitely not that big. So that's program height. So I worry about the kind of the durability, his durability, especially going up. Getting ready to play Georgia, right? Because they're gonna get knocked
yeah,
around in that game.
yeah, they will. I think it'd be a hang around the first half, something like that. But Georgia will be too strong in the second half.
Yeah. And then they got the kids, not Derek Cooper, but they got the other kid, the other quarterback, running back, Dwayne McBride.
Mm-hmm.
He's big, but he just couldn't hold on to the ball. He put the ball
No,
on the ground
ground
twice.
twice. Yes, but he is a
Uh,
good running back, though. He is a good running back.
yeah, from everything I heard him talking about, the announcer talking about, he talked about how good of a running back he is. But when I saw him, he just kept putting the ball on the ground, and you
Yeah,
can't do that.
I saw it like twice when he did that. And the first time they took him out, and I guess they had to talk to him over there. And
Yes.
then he puts the ball right back on the ground again. So
Well, one of them, the guy put his hat right on the ball. I mean, that's one
mm,
of them where maybe you think maybe he's in traffic, so he probably should have had both hands on the ball.
yes,
But it was kind of bang bang. But one of them, he just flat out just put the ball on the ground. You can't do that.
no, you can't. I mean, if you want to maintain a starting position, or if you're trying to get a starting position, that can't happen.
Nah, nah. But again, no. I mean, so I don't think they're going to be able to ride uh, that one kid, the Jermaine Brown, because he's just too small. I mean, he may be able to do it, but once you get into late October, early November, when the conference picture's starting to kind of shake
Right.
out a little bit, and you got people who are playing for that conference championship, and then the people who want to knock you out from it. Um, things start getting a little heated, and the hits start getting a little harder.
Yeah.
And I don't
Oh
know if
yeah.
he's going to have that type of durability because he's small. He's small.
But they have a good receiving core. They have some great tight ends.
Yeah,
So I think
that is
that's
true.
probably going to put them over the hump there, because
That
that'll
is
open up and run. But they got some good receivers.
that is true. They got one kid who the one tight end is big enough. Look like he's got NFL size at
Yes.
least. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
so yeah, so that'll be interesting to watch going forward because the kid Johnston, he can spin it. He can
And
spin it.
the crazy thing about it, that comes from good coaching, because when he was in high school, if I'm not mistaken, he went to Spanish Fort, and that's
Yeah,
down here in South Alabama, Mobile. He was more of a running quarterback. And now, it surprises me to just see the way that he throws the ball. He throws the ball well. And I never thought that would be, you know, that would become his forte, because when I used to look at his highlights in high school, you just see him running the ball all the time.
yeah, he
Because
can get
Spanish,
out.
yeah, Spanish Fort, they have a good program down there. So,
Yeah, he can get out. He can run it, and he's not one of those guys who will just tuck it in, just because like the first or second progression breaks down and just tuck it in and just start
right.
running. He seemed to be able to stand in the pocket for a while and be
Yes.
able to throw it. So yeah, you're right. It looked like he was coached well. Um, but all in all, I thought the UAB game was a pretty good game. Uh, even though Jacksonville State um, didn't show a whole lot.
Right.
I think and this is that early season hot take stuff. One game, very small sample size, so
Right.
You hear people, UAB gonna win another conference championship. You saw one game
Right.
against against a team that I thought was pretty good. I mean, I thought Zerrick Cooper. And it shows you. Um, so Zerrick Cooper's a good quarterback. I really
Yes.
think he's a good quarterback, but he only threw for. I don't think he threw for 100 yards that game.
I think when they go in conference, FCS, when they go in conference, I think they'll have I think that team will be well balanced. I really think they'll be well balanced and they'll probably compete for the championship.
Yeah.
I don't
So
mean I don't mean the FCS championship. I mean, their conference championship.
yeah, because he only threw for 88 yards,
Yeah.
right? And it was, and again, they just seem to be outmatched. There's nothing wrong with that. They kind of stepped up, took on a bigger, stronger team, and
And that score, it kind of reflects when you say FCS. UAB is not a really strong FBS team, but that score, it doesn't surprise me. And Jacksonville State, they shouldn't hang their head low because you stepped up in conference. So that I can't take too much from that.
right, and
That
then
was kind of par for the course.
right, but you'll see that next week when UAB
Yes.
goes down to play when UAB plays Georgia, right? It's going to be one of those things where you'll see that line, the separation line again, where UAB is FBS, but it's a different strata. Yeah.
And I think like week 2, I think all of these strong FBS teams will be playing like lower tier FBS teams and FCS teams. So week 2 in college football is really not going to be a competitive week.
Yeah, right. And it's and I really want to choose my words carefully here, right? Because the last thing you want to say is cupcake, right? Because anybody can lose, anybody can be beat, right?
Yes,
But
I'm going
it's
to
just
say it. I'm going to say it. It's going to be a cupcake week. I'm going to say it.
yeah, but just like when college basketball starts, right? And you have your powerhouse teams, and they're playing these teams that yeah, they're not going to. These other teams are not going to be able to beat these powerhouse teams. Sometimes it may happen, right? It could be the March Madness thing, right?
Yes,
Where Dick
that's where you
Vitale is
really
on the
see the
sideline, about to pass out because he's screaming so much.
because
But
then you have nothing to lose. But when they play early, you want to try to prevent injuries and all that kind of stuff. But when it's like one and done, hey, everything goes then.
right, and that's what I think that these teams do, especially early on in college football when it's when the powerhouse team is playing a much playing a team that doesn't really have a chance at beating them. You go in, you say, well, we're gonna throw everything we got at them for a couple quarters, all right,
Right.
and then it's trying to get out of there without getting anybody hurt.
Yes. Yes.
And I
We'll
think
we'll,
that the
we'll get the money and run. But
right, yeah, it's a money grab, and I think that the stronger teams are looking at the same thing. They're saying, there's no reason for me to play my starters into the second half because, you don't want somebody to come down wrong on an ankle or
yeah.
get a knee twisted or something that's going to prevent you from being at your full, your maximum participation for the next game, which, now you're in the week 3 and week 4 when,
Right.
you're not playing in the conference, but you're still playing stronger teams. So, but again, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I hadn't really. You know what? And this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you like this either. So there are 2 ways that I watch a game. Right? There's me watching a game for just the enjoyment of watching football,
Right.
and then there's me watching a game so I can come and we can talk about it and try to kind of analyze it. Right?
Right. Right.
And
And
so, go ahead.
no, that's basically the way I look at it. Just to try to be a armchair analyst, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Monday morning quarterback, right?
Right.
Um, but I guess in case of college football, it's Sunday morning quarterback. But I don't watch the whole game. I record it, and then because on my service, I can hit the forward button. It'll go forward 30 seconds. And I'm usually
Right.
right back to the next play.
Right.
Right, play's over. I hit 30 seconds. It's usually right back to the next play. So I'm watching these games, not really watching the game. Not listening to the analysis, not listening to the color man tell the story about the guy who transferred from X, went to Y,
Right.
didn't
Right.
work out. I
You're basically looking at the game like you would in the film room, like a coach will watch it, analyzing each play and what this person did, what that person did. It's almost like you're a coach too when you're watching, when you're doing it that way, because you
yeah,
can hit the rewind, you can go forward and just say, "Wow, look how you hit that hole" or whatever, and you can just drown out everything else around you, and
but it
you're
took something out of
focused.
it though. It took out some of the enjoyment of it because a lot of it, like when I was watching the Clemson Georgia game, you know, Herb Street was just going berserk at one point, right? He just, yeah, I thought he was gonna run onto the field at one point. Um, and then when I was watching the North Carolina and um, uh, who did North Carolina play? I got it right here. North Carolina played
Was it Virginia Tech they played?
Virginia Tech. Yeah, I was watching North Carolina Virginia Tech game, and at the end of the game, um, North Carolina had the ball at the end of the game. They were down, and the clock was running. And you're screaming at the TV at that point. You
Yes.
know, timeout, call a timeout. But they just let the clock run down. And when they threw a pass to the hash instead of to the sideline.
Sideline.
Now, if the guy catches the ball, turns upfield and runs, Mac Brown's a genius, right? You know, but 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 the guy catches, but the play kind of breaks down, and now they don't have enough time to really, mount a real good offense, a couple of play offense, to get the ball down the field. And now Mac Brown's on the hot. I think he's on the hot seat at least, and we'll talk about hot seats there later.
Yeah.
Um, but I think back to my point is it just took kind of the enjoyment out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason is, if I can just keep, babbling on now, is that I had to get through a few games. And that was the whole thing, right? So,
Hmm.
I had to watch the UAB Jacksonville game. I needed to watch the Southern Miss game in South Alabama. I needed to watch the Alabama Miami game.
Hmm.
And so I'm just just on the remote, going forward, going forward, going forward. And it took some of the enjoyment out of it. But I watched it. I guess I'll let to say I watched a lot of football this weekend, more
Yes.
than usual. Yeah,
Yes. This weekend was a football junkie's dream.
yeah, because they had it everywhere. They
Yes.
had it everywhere, and it was some pretty good games. I didn't watch the Notre Dame FSU game last night, and I heard it was a
I
classic.
want to I want to talk about that one because yes, it was a really good game. Notre Dame should have never let FSU come back like they did. And then at the end of the game, I want to ask you a question because we don't have to reflect on that game too long. Which, like you said, it was a classic. It was a great game. It was a great opening game. At the end of the game, FSU had the ball. They went into overtime. I'm sorry, they went into overtime. FSU had the ball. They got the ball first in overtime, and there was like a third and I don't know, probably 8 or something like that. And the quarterback goes back and he's about to throw the ball. So they called the old Tom Brady tuck rule. At first they called a fumble, which was the correct call. And FSU's coach, he said, wait a minute, no, we got to look at this again. So that's when the old home cooking comes in. So the referees look at the play, and I'm like, I know they're not going to call that tuck rule, which, in college football, they don't call it that, but that's exactly what I want you to look at the highlights of that.
Yeah, I got to
He
check the
actually
highlights
fumbled
out.
the ball. He was going to throw it, then he brought it back in, and the ball slips out of his hand. So they said he went forward with the pass. This is my question here. Okay, you're going to call a tuck rule on that. Let's just say if he dropped back and he had a heavy rush on him and he just wanted to get rid of the ball and he just throws it, but it doesn't go to the line of scrimmage. What is that called?
That's grounded if it doesn't go, if it doesn't reach the line of scrimmage.
That's grounded. So if the ball slips out of his hand like that, do you call grounding? Because there was no receiver in the area. It was a fumble. It was either that or it was grounded.
Yeah, I mean, so if his arm is going forward, right?
Nope.
And
Defensive guy didn't touch his arm.
if he didn't touch him, okay, the arm is
Didn't
going
touch him.
forward, right? And the ball comes out of his hand. I'm just trying to think about this logically. And the ball comes out of his hand,
right?
And it doesn't reach the line of scrimmage, then that would be grounding, right? Because
unless there was a receiver in the area, 10 yards within.
Right. So if it's no receiver, his hand's going forward, the arm's going forward, the ball is released and hits the ground, then that's grounding. Thinking about it logically, that's grounding. If his hand goes forward and he pulls the ball back in and the ball comes out, then that's a fumble.
That's a fumble, yes. And the other thing is, he wasn't outside the tackle box.
Right.
Because when you go outside the tackle box, you can just throw the ball as long as it goes past the line of scrimmage. And when they were doing it, I'm like Herb Street now. I'm screaming all at the TV and stuff. Like, how can you call this? All right, next play, they get a try field goal just to go up 3 because they had the ball first. The guy, he kicks the 50-yarder. They called timeout before to look at the play, but they went on through with the play, and he kicks the ball. He kicks a 51-yarder, but they called timeout to look at the previous play. Hits it. It was perfect. Now they move the ball back up 10 or 15 yards. He shanks it to the left, and I'm screaming to old Rasheed Wallace, ball don't lie. That's all I was saying. Ball don't lie. If who's that? Notre Dame gets the ball back. They didn't get the first down, kicks, field goal. That's it. That was the game. And that's the way it should have been in the first place.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame shouldn't have never gone into overtime with FSU.
Yeah. And I don't know if you heard what's the head coach, Brian Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard his comments after when he was getting interviewed.
I saw it, but I didn't really just pay attention to it.
He said, well, I believe in the, I think he was talking about executions. Yeah. Like, I believe in execution. I think our whole team should be executed. Yeah.
That part, yeah. I saw ESPN kind of highlighted that quote.
Yeah. I was watching, I saw a clip of it, and obviously, yeah, I know what he meant, but I thought it was kind of funny too, because he was just talking about, I guess it was just a bad comeback.
It was, and that it was disappointing. I know he looked disappointed. Just to say, we went into overtime with this team right here. I don't mean it like, arrogantly, but they had the game. They could have just, if they would kept. Go ahead.
It's one of those things where it's so week 8, week 9, right? Notre Dame is going to be number 3 or number 4 in the nation, right? If they go undefeated, if they drop any games up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it depends on who they play. I haven't seen Notre Dame's schedule, but let's just say hypothetically, they play some teams that obviously they're just outclassed, right? Then you look back at this game, you go, Notre Dame isn't that good. So they got this, they're in the top 5, but they're really not that good. And so they squeak by another couple teams, and then, it's late December, early January. We start the playoffs. Notre Dame get in there and just get drug up and down the field. right? And it's the same thing
Yeah.
every year. Yeah, when it's the whole how good is Notre Dame, and it's just not Notre Dame either, right? It's how good is Oregon, right?
Right.
How good is UCLA right now, right?
Right.
Does this game, and this is a question to you, does this game take Chip Kelly off the hot seat? Right?
I mean,
I,
do you think he's ever on a hot seat though?
well, I think so. I
Brian Kelly now. Brian Kelly. Brian
no
Kelly.
no no. I'm talking about Chip Kelly out of UCLA
Oh, at
with
UCLA. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
the win over LSU, right? You ask yourself, how good is LSU,
Right.
right? Because LSU, they're still rebuilding. They had that buzzsaw the Joe Burrow senior year. Then last year they started rebuilding. They're still doing
Sure.
that. Going through the recruiting process and the whole deal. But we're going to start dealing with UCLA being the team du jour, right?
The darling of the
Yeah,
NCAA now.
darn little NCAA. And as soon as they, the play, if they were to be fortunate enough to go into one of the playoffs, they're just going to get drug up and down the field.
I still don't think that they'll go through the Pac-10 though. I don't think that they'll.
Well, they got that
They'll
running
go through
back
that
from
conference.
Michigan that's supposed to be pretty good. The guy transferred from Michigan, supposed to be
Yeah,
pretty good. I can't think of his name now.
but UCLA still has a defense, and he can't play on defense. So I mean, that's
Yeah, they still got to play both sides of the ball. I get it.
they got to play both sides. So, and
I
they
get
still got to play USC. They still got to get through Oregon. There are teams out there that's going to give them a run. So, yeah, I think if they go through that conference, yeah, they should get some kind of mention. But once you get in the Final Four, then you'll see the real team come out. You'll
Yeah.
actually see the real team come out.
Well, so still speaking of LSU, going back to that, do you think Ed Ogeron's on the hot seat?
Oh yes.
You
Oh
think
yeah.
so?
He is on the hot seat. See, this thing it kind of mirrors what happened to Auburn in 2010. They win the national championship. The next year they had a mediocre, 8-4 season. Then the year after that, they go like 3-8, and Chiswick is gone. So
Yeah.
this is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
He needs to at least come. He needs to at least place third place in the SEC, and I don't mean just the West. I mean,
Well, I mean, Mark, I don't know if you saw the game, but they're not third place in the SEC talented this year. I mean, yeah, they just looked, and this is just me kind of glancing at a quarter or so. They just didn't look. They didn't look LSU like. Right? They weren't dominating up front. They weren't fast on the outside. Faster than you usually than most teams are. I don't know. I just don't think that I get your analysis, but they definitely won't be third in the SEC. Now I don't think so.
now you remember before this FSU and Notre Dame game came up, we were talking about who do we think will win, and you said at first, I think Notre Dame would just take them out, and that's what was happening. And remember, I asked you, I was like, well, where are they playing the game? They played it at Florida State, and it turned out to be a good game. If that game was in South Bend, there's no way.
There's no way he come back.
They would have blown FSU out the water. Now I'll ask you the same question about the game that you watched with UCLA and LSU. What if the game was in Baton Rouge?
Right. I get it. I understand what you're saying. It's a different atmosphere, different energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I do. You know what? And I'm going to stick this in. I'm going to sneak this in too because I had on my notes over here. I still thought that there were some COVID restrictions on crowd sizes and because the Virginia Tech North Carolina game, They didn't have a seat open at that thing.
My daughter showed me a video before the Auburn game. You need to see that. And you're right. There are no restrictions. UCF, they call the place the bounce house. No restrictions. I mean, the place, there wasn't a seat there. I mean, it was crowded like
2011.
yes, like they just didn't have no kind of mandates on anything.
Yeah,
So and when you're talking about super spreader, that's
I mean, I saw a few games that you can tell that there were some restrictions in there. When I looked at the South Alabama Southern Miss game, the game that you were at, right?
mhm.
You can see where the crowd was spread out. It wasn't a
Yeah,
full house, right?
right.
But I was watching that Notre Dame. I'm sorry, that North Carolina Virginia Tech game. Packed. I mean,
Yes.
SRO, standing room only.
They were waiting for football to come back.
Yeah, man. I
But
mean, oh, don't get me wrong. It was electric. The
did you
atmosphere
see
was electric.
the Alabama and Miami
Right?
game?
Yeah, yeah.
When they showed a picture of no restriction, and that's indoors now.
I know.
So
I don't know. I know. It was it was a lot of people at a lot of games. And it surprised me in that I was still under the impression that there were certain restrictions still going on. And obviously not. Well,
no.
if they were, that people just say, hey, you know what? They just gonna have to.
September the 4th, 2021 was circled in every stadium's calendar
Yeah, yeah,
because the college stadiums, they couldn't wait to get that money back right there.
yeah, man. It
Hey,
was time. It was time to get back, man.
all we want to do is see your mask come through here. What you do after that, hey,
It's
you
on
do
you.
whatever. It's
It's
on
on
you.
you.
Exactly.
It's on you. All right, man. Well, so that was one of the things I did want to bring up because it kind of surprised me.
Yes.
Um, I really thought that it was going to be um, implemented just a little bit more strict, I guess.
Well, me as a football fan, football junkie, I love to see it. I love to see it. Would I want to be out there with all those people? No,
No,
I
no, no,
really wouldn't want to be out there with all those.
no.
But I love to see it now. And I may be a
One,
hypocrite by saying that, but I love to see it.
listen, when Virginia Tech came, when they play Inner Sandman, and the team
Yeah.
comes out before
Oh,
that, and they show it electric,
hey,
goosebumps up and down my back. Yeah.
that makes me think I got 6 more plays left in me when I saw it.
Yeah, it makes you feel young.
Yes,
You
that
you
was
think you can do it. However, I feel that right here, right down here in my basement, because I couldn't. It was just weird to see it. But again, man, I think it was um, great atmosphere, and college football needed it. Yeah, it
now
really
I
needed
want
it.
to I didn't get to see a lot of the Georgia and Clemson game, but I know you did see a lot of it. And what do you think? You were telling me about Clemson before, but what do you think since they played the full game and they lost? What do you think about Clemson as far as a national power?
So this is, and I'm glad you asked that question because this is the thing. So there is this um there's this theory, this mentality that Clemson is not going to be that good because of the loss of Trevor Lawrence, right? Every year you have some quarterback they call a generational talent,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to go and just do great things in the NFL. He's the best college football player you ever saw, yada yada yada, right? Clemson is not that good right now, not because of the loss of Trevor Lawrence, but the loss of Travis Etienne.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
because
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna tell you right now, that kid DJ, I can't pronounce his last name, and I don't want to butcher his
And
last name.
I call him DJU.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
DJU.
DJU is a decent quarterback, right? He can throw. He got a big arm. He can use his feet. He can do a lot of things, right? But when you don't have to worry about the run, which Georgia didn't have to.
Right.
When you don't have to worry about the run, you can do all sorts of things. Kirby Smart will drive you berserk if you are one dimensional. If the only thing they're gonna let this guy do. Now Herbstreit was pointing out some plays where he rushed through his progressions. He pointed out some plays where, and this is DJU. He rushed through some of his progressions that he gets locked in on some receivers sometime. You know, and I think that happens to a lot of young quarterbacks. Obviously, it does. But Mark, when you don't have to worry about a running game, and you got a defensive mind like Kirby Smart over there, you're gonna get eaten alive, man. You're gonna get eaten alive. And I think Clemson's okay. They're nothing like they were. They got a decent defense. They got some guys up front. They have first, second round draft choices with their hand in the dirt up front. Period. Those guys are big, they're fast, and they're good.
And just think about this. The game was just 10-3. So you're spot on about the defense. And that's the thing I was trying to tell people. Everybody's talking about Trevor Lawrence, but Travis Etienne, he was like the X factor on that offense. Because when you establish the run, that's going to open up the pass every time.
Every time. And they just could not run the ball. Now, again, Georgia's good. Georgia's good up front. They're big. They're fast. And their secondary is okay, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think a lot of that is because DJU had to probably throw more than Dabo would want him to throw.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure he would probably want to establish a good run game, and then that's just going to open everything up. But Travis, the loss of Etienne is the biggest factor in what Clemson's going to be this year. Trevor Lawrence is great. He's fantastic. I think he's gonna burn it up in the NFL. I hope he does. You know, and Etienne's hurt too, isn't he? Did he? I think he's out for the season.
He's out for the season.
I think he's out for the season. But that was the biggest thing that I noticed. I mean, you watch these guys last year. You watch him turn around, get that ball to Etienne, 5 or 6 times during a drive, 6, 7 times during a drive when they're going down, and see him establish himself. He can go between the tackles, off tackle, do all this other stuff, and then that play action comes in, and where those defensive backs have to respect that. That second layer have to respect that. It's a whole different ball game when you don't have to do it.
And Etienne was a great receiver too. I mean, coming out the backfield, that was another thing.
Yeah.
So they had to respect that too. And he was definitely a home run threat when he had the ball in his hand, because he can go 90 yards. He was a track guy anyway. So, I mean, you had to respect his athleticism.
Yeah.
So that was a big loss on the offense. Trevor Lawrence, great quarterback, great college quarterback. I'll give him his due. But Etienne was the X factor in that offense.
Yeah, Etienne was the one that, again, when you could when your safeties have to respect him, have to respect the run that much, because he can get to that second level like that. And,
yes.
He get through the line at that second level like that. So you have to respect that run. When that happens, everybody has to freeze for a second. And when you got a guy like Lawrence back there, he'll pick you apart.
Yes.
I think this guy, I think DJ could probably do the same thing, right? Because he's got a big arm. He's got a huge arm. He can spin it.
Yeah.
He's got a huge arm.
And he's a big guy too. I mean, he's a Cam Newton type
guy.
He's a Cam Newton type quarterback. So
yeah, he goes 250. I think maybe that. I think they shaved a couple off, right? Because he's a big boy. Yes. He's a big boy. When he gets going downhill, I mean, he's fast. That's too.
Scary.
he almost ran that cornerback down that pick six.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the highlight. He almost ran him down. He can
Yes.
run. He can turn his legs over. It's just it's
I,
just that the loss at the end, man.
I think Clemson is not the big powerhouse they were before, but I think they'll still run through the ACC, which is to me is not a strong conference, but they'll run through the ACC. You hadn't heard the last of them, so. And I think BJU will progress. He will get much better because he has the receivers around him. But like you said before, they have to establish a running game, and they have to establish a main running back, basically.
Yeah, they got to get somebody.
Yeah, that's going to be the guy.
And I'm sure when in a program like Clemson, you got to think they got somebody there who is at least capable of doing some of the things that Etienne does. When you talk about a generational talent, he was one.
Yes.
So it's going to be hard to replace him. I just think that until they get that, I don't know what's going to. And you're right, they're probably going to do well in the ACC. The only teams in the ACC, I'm looking at the preseason top 25 here. The only other team besides Clemson is
North Carolina. They're gonna drop hard.
Yeah, North Carolina's gonna drop like a rock because they were at number 10.
Yeah,
and
they're gonna drop hard.
They lost to a unranked team, so they're gonna fall way out. So it's Clemson, North Carolina was at 10, and I don't see anybody else in the ACC.
Are they considering Notre Dame as an ACC team, or they're still independent in football?
I think they're still independent in football. I think basketball they're ACC.
Okay.
Which that just upsets me to no end because Notre Dame. Are there any other independents besides Notre Dame?
Right, and they're getting away with a lot, but they get a lot of money for being an independent too.
Because they play on NBC, the Notre Dame Broadcasting Company.
They have their own network.
Yeah, they got their own network. They have their own network. So if you have your own network, you do what you want to do.
You do what you want. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I always thought that the Notre Dame should probably go, either ACC follow, but it's weird because this is the only time where it's kind of reversed almost. Because a lot of them are football decisions, right? The conferences are football decisions. So when you have like Texas and Oklahoma are going to join the SEC in 2025, right? Now you got Texas basketball and Oklahoma basketball who are going to be in the SEC, because they just made a football decision, and then now so now where you have these blue blood SEC basketball teams like Kentucky and Florida, a couple of national championships, right?
Yes.
But now you got Oklahoma coming in, you got Texas coming in, and you've gone from 14 to 16.
Yes.
Right. And so it's all right. I digress. But you know what? Forget that. It's just that when you make those decisions like that, it's just
because you're not thinking about the other programs too. You're really not thinking about the other programs.
Nothing. Basketball parents made a decision to send their kids to Texas because they're going to be playing, Texas Tech and these other kind of,
which have been long rivals. Now you kill those rivals. Now
you're killing rivals there.
Yes.
Right? They're just gone. Just because it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right. Red River rivalry. It brought a lot to that conference. Oklahoma State, which they call Bedlam, brought a lot of money to that conference.
Right. So Bedlam's gone.
It.
I mean, it's still there, but Bedlam's gone.
Right.
Red River Shootout's gone.
Right.
But it's not really gone. It's just moved to the SEC.
SEC, yes.
Right. So you got Bedlam, you got the Red River Shootout, you got the Iron Bowl, you got the cocktail party.
Right. Alabama, Georgia. I forget, that's the oldest rivalry. So now you picked up with this other kind of stuff too.
Right.
You got the Horseshoe, LSU, and who is it? Ole Miss or something?
Ole Miss. Yeah. And you
So
got
now
the
you
Egg Bowl with Mississippi
egg bowl.
State, Mississippi. So
Yes.
you've done all these things, and they're purely football decisions,
Yes.
and you stripped away some of that. So much so that, and this is the other thing that we were talking about, we were texting back and forth about a couple of days ago, that the Pac-12 and the Big 12 just went bananas, right?
Yeah.
Now they want it.
They want to form their own conference.
Right.
And oh, this is what I wanted to say. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you all before, but think about this. You could have 4 strong conferences in the United States. Okay. Within the United States, you have 48 states, right?
Yeah, in the continental United States, right?
Right. You got a college team in Hawaii, but you don't have one in Alaska. Or do they? There's not a college football team in Alaska. I don't
No,
think.
no, not a college football team. No.
Okay. So you separate them in 4 regions.
Okay.
You got the West, you got the East, you got the North, and you got the South. You give the West a couple of teams, right? Because if you divide 4 into 49 at least, you're going to come up with what? How many teams? Probably 12 teams, 12 to 13 teams.
It's 2 things that I don't do in public.
I mean, not 12, 13 states. I'm sorry.
Well, again, there's 2 things I don't do in public. That's that's public displays of affection and math.
So I asked, okay, 12
All right,
times
so
4 is
yeah.
48. And
All
you
right,
just
so
you give the conference
you
you
got like
give the
12
conference a
teams.
state, and you give another conference a state. So now, not teams but states now. And
Okay.
there's 130 schools in FBS as far as
Okay.
football. So you break them down into regions. Like, you don't call it the Southeastern Conference anymore. You call it the South, and you separate it from the Mason-Dixon line. Now you got the East schools, you got the Southern schools, you got the Western schools, and you got the Northern schools. And you just make, hey, those you call it the Power 4 conference. And you let each one of them take the NCAA out of it. Take the NCAA out of it. Everybody governs the way they want to do it. But you got to have some kind of champion out of that. Or you can have a champion and you can have a runner-up.
What would separate the East from the West? Is it the Mississippi?
You said the East from the West?
Yeah.
That's a good question, because some of your Midwestern schools, some will have to go to the.
So are the Midwestern schools in the West, or are they in the?
And that's what I'm saying. You're going to have to give somebody, like when we're talking about the Mason-Dixon line with the South, at least you know where you're going to separate that from. And that's up there by you.
Yeah, so it's gonna so that's Pennsylvania up and Maryland down. I think the Mason-Dixon is
right.
Separates, goes across. It's Maryland, separates Maryland, Pennsylvania, right? So everything below that is Mason-Dixon.
Now you got to consider Michigan as a northern school instead of Midwest.
Okay, again,
I get what you're saying. What's going to separate that? But you know, when they did the old North and South game, you know, we went to a blue-gray game back in the day. Yeah. They did separate the states like that. So the problem would be separating the West and the Midwest and all of that. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Where would okay, so
ask me the questions. I'll put them there. Just ask me the questions.
Okay, so obviously we would go California is the West. Right. Hold on. And then and so when you come in Arizona, so you go up the West Coast. Right? You got California, then you got And you got Washington State up there. You got Oregon.
Yes.
Uh,
Nevada.
So
got Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona. You're going to consider all of them as the West over there.
Okay.
All right.
I'm pulling up a U.S. map right now.
Okay. Good. And you can kind of tell me, since you're looking at the map, you can kind of tell me where each one of them could go.
The problem is going to be, where do you draw the line for East-West? And when you draw that line for East-West, that team that is technically below the Mason-Dixon, if you just drag it all the way across, are they in the South, or will they be in the West, or the South?
That's why I say you're gonna have to give a state to somebody. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, so here we go. All right, so here we go. Washington State. That's gonna be where?
That's the West.
Okay, then Oregon.
Oregon's gonna be West.
California.
West.
Idaho.
Idaho be in the West.
Nevada.
Nevada definitely West.
Arizona.
West.
Utah.
Be in the West.
Wyoming.
West.
All right, so Montana.
That's a tricky one.
No, it's not.
But I will put it in the West.
Okay, so let me count these now. Let me count these.
All right.
So hold on. Oh man, I just lost it. Oh, it's gonna be bad. I just lost it.
Look, this could be another time. We can go over this outside of this, and we can break this down. But my thing is, if you separate it by the regions of the United States, and you come up with a Power Four, and you come up with a champion and runner-up, you'll have your 8 then. You'll have your 8 playoffs. You have 2 from the West, 2 from the East, 2 from the South, 2 from the North. And everybody governs their own conference. You take the NCAA out of it. If you want to bring the NCAA back in, that's only for the championship or for the tournament.
I still see some flaws in this. Because the biggest thing is going to be so if you have a team that could go East or West, right? And that team is a powerhouse, right?
Somebody's going to pick up a powerhouse then.
Or somebody's not going to want a powerhouse. I mean, so let's say hypothetically it's Texas, right?
Okay. Right.
Because
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Is Texas going to go to the West? Because Washington's not going to want that.
Texas definitely going in the South.
Right. But but all right. I'm just saying, if you look at it, right? So if like Montana is the cut, one of them, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, my internet's just going slow. So Montana. So the biggest thing is going to be, where are you going to draw the line that comes down to separate East and West?
Right. And you got to work out the quirks. You're going to have to work out the quirks. But somebody is going to get an extra school. They're going to get an extra school because, like I said, 12 times 4, that's 48. That's the continental United States. So we're talking about Hawaii and Alaska, which Alaska does not have. I don't think they have a FBS football team.
So
I wouldn't think they would.
No, I don't think they do. So so it doesn't really matter, right? You just say, okay, well, we're going to put Hawaii's obviously going to be in the West.
Yes.
So that's the extra school.
That's your school,
right? So everything else is going to be these lines that we got to draw.
Right. Hey, Rome wasn't built today. They had to come up with a strategy.
Everything else. So if you got California 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay. So Wyoming is going to be 10, Colorado is going to be 11, and New Mexico is going to
Right.
be 12.
12.
Right? And so we're going
Right.
to give the extra school to the west, which is
To the
Hawaii.
west. Right.
So that's the 13.
That's
Right?
the 13 there. Now
So
come over.
Let's just say the schools out of those places that you're gonna have,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, California, obviously, you got UCLA, USC, and the other California state schools,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you got there. Oregon State, Washington State, University of Idaho. Uh, Utah's gonna have Utah, BYU, Utah State.
Right.
Arizona State, and University of Arizona, New Mexico State, and UM.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado State, and University of Colorado. Wyoming, same thing. Montana, I think they got another school of FCS
Mon-
school up in Montana.
Montana State would probably be FCS, I think, but I think they do probably have another FBS, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just going to be FBS schools. That's it. It doesn't
Okay.
matter how many your state has. It's just going to be FBS schools.
So from this though, because it's already 13, right? Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with them. So we have to put one more into the West. So it either be one of the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, or Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say if we started at the top, it'd be North Dakota.
Okay.
So that'll make the 13.
That's the
So
13.
we got left is, what we have left now for the East is a lot of schools.
Now, think about some of those East schools are going to be in the North.
Right. That's my whole thing, though.
Right.
So, all right. The thing is, if you were just to go across one across here and then one down, and then make 4 quadrants there.
Right.
Um,
Like a tic-tac-toe thing, basically.
yeah, it still will be bedlam.
It would be, but it would be interesting though.
You know what? I'm gonna let's do this. Let's do this. Next show, both of us got to come up with the conferences.
Okay.
With the conferences. All right, so we got to go from the Mason-Dixon line, which is Maryland all the way across, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to find out what is the geographical center of the United States. And I think it's Lawrence, Kansas, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So from Lawrence, Kansas.
That's where you're going to put
that's the geographical center.
Now we're going into some geometry now. We're going into some geometry now.
No, that's what we're gonna draw the line up and down.
Okay.
Right? That's gonna separate east and west.
Right.
And then
now we got to do north and south.
Yeah, and north and south is going to be the Mason-Dixon line going across, all the way across, right? And obviously, you're going to get to one point where you have to stop because then you're all the way into the east, right? But east and west, right? And then north and south going this way, right?
And I'm gonna throw another one on you. This might be a whole lot now, but we got to get every school that's in FBS. So that's 130 schools. So it's going to tell you what state that they're in, and you got to throw them in this pot, throw them in that pot, throw them in this.
I think that's easy. What I think is going to be the biggest thing is where are you going to put Texas?
Texas is going to be separated now. Texas is big enough where you're going to have to separate it. You're going to have to separate. No. It's not cheating. You're going to have to separate Texas. And everything that's on the west side of Texas goes to the west.
Okay, so everything that's on the west side of Texas. So that is like Texas Tech, Baylor, that's in West Texas.
Mm-hmm. And then when you're talking about East, you're talking about Houston. You're talking about
SMU.
And is A&M in that too? Texas A&M.
And I think A&M is in there too.
A&M,
I think
yeah,
College
so-
Station's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You
All
can't
right.
tell me this is not interested to do if they ever thought of something like that, where they just separate, have 4 conferences, Jimmy. That's all. 4 conferences. And they always wanted to expand the playoff picture. You go from the 4 conferences, each conference like they do now. They have their own governing body. We're going to do things this way, but we got to come up with a champion and a runner-up.
Well, so
They make their own top 25.
yeah,
Each,
the problem would be, I think, would be how you separate, how the playoff system would run within each of the conferences.
You see how the FCS does theirs, right? You play 10 games. And then after them 10 games, whoever your top, 10 teams or 10 schools will go into that playoff system. So they're going to have to play probably 2 or 3 games before they play a championship. You're going to play 15 games, 15 to 16 games.
30. No, so they're
going to have to fight out there a little. But the FCS can do it now. The FCS has done it.
But there are 132. There are 130 teams, right?
Right.
And so a lot of those teams, most of those teams are East, I think, or on the eastern part of America. You would think.
FCS. You would think, well, you're more powerhouses over there in the, on your side.
Because this is like an average of 32 teams per quadrant.
Just about, yeah. Just about.
Yeah,
that's some good math. That's some good math. That's just about.
It'll be untenable.
Listen, you can do it. You have your own look. You have
there will
your
be
own
riots
top 25.
in the street when the East, or let's say when the West top 20 come out, or the West top 10, there'll be riots.
I love chaos, man, but they're rising now. They're rising now with everything. Look, you got 130. You got 130 FBS team, and you got 1 top 25. So now your Coastal Carolinas and stuff like that, they can't even get in because you gotta play through 130 schools, which I'll say a fourth of those are really not that good. So they don't have no kind of voice in this. You can still compete.
I'm glad you brought that up, because at some point we got to stop. We got to stop with all this Coastal Carolina, Louisiana Tech thing, right? We got to stop with these darlings of the preseason top 25s, or this Florida Atlantic, or University of Central Florida should be in the championship bowl games.
Right.
Should be in the playoffs because X and Y. No, they shouldn't. They're not,
because of the amount of competition that they're
right. I take that back. They are good, but the competition is not as good as those teams who are playing what I would call the top tier college football. Yeah, so when you go down, Cincinnati probably got a pretty good team, right? Mm-hmm. But they would get knocked around somewhere down in the SEC if they have to play that type of schedule.
Right. So with my little system, now you got a Coastal Carolina, Cincinnati, that takes all your West teams out of their top 25. Now that places them up, and they can fight it out there. And the only time the NCAA comes in, because nobody's going to get, well, I can't say nobody's going to get left out, but your top tiers, once you do the little playoff thing and your champion and runner-up comes up, you still got the bowl game. That's when the NCAA comes back in. Now they can play their bowl games. They can match these schools up and play bowl games and stuff. East school play West schools, North schools play South schools. And you just pair them up in bowl games like
you just destroyed the bowl system, so you can forget about that. The bowl system is done. You forget about that. That doesn't exist. Unless you go add 15, 20 new bowls.
Hey, if
And
it takes it, I mean, but
it's too
there are
many
already
bowl
a lot.
games out there.
There are
There's
already
too
a
many
lot
bowl
of bowl
games already.
games now.
There's too many bowl games.
Exactly. So you can match all these schools up.
There was a bowl game on Christmas Day. There's a bowl game on December 23rd. I was like, what are we doing? Now, I'm saying that in trying to obviously try to get a laugh. I get it. And guys who have put in 4 years at some college who this is kind of their last game, they deserve that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, they're just all kind of bowls. All kind of bowls. I mean, there's some of them when you say to yourself, why is that a bowl game?
When they came up with like the Japan Bowl and bowls like that, I was like, they're going too far now.
They just, it's a money grab.
Yeah.
It's a money grab. There's a bowl on December 21st. What are you doing? You come home, you turn the TV on. You're like, I know it's football on right now.
Because back then there weren't a lot of bowl games, so that made you fought harder to try to get into. Now, if you get 6 victories, you're going to be in a bowl game. You're going to be in a bowl game somewhere because there's just so many.
Yeah, and it's just so much. It's just so much money going around.
Right.
And you know what? Listen, hey, God bless them. If you can get 6 victories, 7 victories in a season, and then get a bowl game, play it. I don't know how many people are going to watch it. I don't know how many people are going to go to it. I don't know if you want to say to yourself, my senior year I played in the Birmingham Bowl,
or the Blue Bunnet Bowl.
The Blue Bunnet Bowl, man. It was a Blue Bunnet Bowl. That butter. It's way too many bowls. Way too many bowls, I think. And it just stretches from their bowl games that come like right after the season's over almost.
Yeah.
All the way into the national championship game. I don't even know which one got the championship game this year, because it's usually one of the big 4, right? Like it's either the
Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Fiesta, and what's the other? Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl, yeah. So it's usually one of those.
Yeah.
They get it. One of the the granddaddy of them all kind of bowls.
Right.
I know that's the hit for the.
Because in the last little thing where the what was it called, that championship, the last one that they had before they went to the new system, the what did they call that national championship? The because they cut it off in like 2013 or 14. The last one was 2013. Auburn and FSU played in the last bowl game, that national championship. Then they changed the whole system around.
Oh, I remember.
It'll come to me. But they had their own national championship game for that. And everybody else, the big 4 still had their bowl games. But there was
yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of it, but yeah, I know what you mean. So they still play like
BCS
championship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they still played the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, and the Orange Bowl,
right.
and all that. They just played in the BCS. Yeah.
It was just one BCS championship, which I kind of liked that. I didn't like the system, but I liked the way that they did that. It was just one championship game, and that was it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so the BCS was weird. Yeah. No one could understand it, and I think that was the
point system. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the point of the whole thing. Nobody could understand it, so they just said, "Hey, if we're the only ones that understand it, then we're never going to have any scrutiny behind it."
I was glad they got rid of that.
All right, man. So I think we talked about most of the things that we set out for. Just a quick look at the top 25. So Bama won, so they probably repeat it, come back as number 1. Oklahoma
That's
didn't really.
Be hard. That's gonna be kind of hard to keep them at number 2 after that.
Yeah, because that's one of those things where you say they won, but it wasn't impressive, and it
Right.
was against a team that they should have had an
I,
impressive win against.
I know everybody says the first game, but you played against Tulane, and there's no knock on Tulane, but Oklahoma was supposed to win that game by at least 20
Yeah.
to 30 points. So
I could see them in maybe hanging around in maybe the top five,
top five, yeah.
top five, maybe top seven. But I think that I think they're going to drop.
Yeah.
No. Ohio State is probably going to move up to 2, I would imagine, with Clemson losing.
Yeah.
At 3, Georgia moves up from 5.
They may even put Georgia at number 2. You never know. They might even put them at number 2 because that was a top 5 matchup.
Yeah.
Number 3 against number 5. So I could see them moving up to number 2 and dropping Oklahoma.
Ohio State played who they played? They played
Minnesota.
Didn't they? Yeah.
They at least played a conference game, and Minnesota, I think Minnesota's going to be good, but that Ohio State Clemson game, the way that they built that up, and it was a top 5 game, I can see them moving on Georgia to number 2 for this week.
Yeah. Okay. Notre Dame, I think, stays in the top 10, but I don't think they move. I don't think they move up. They're at 9 right now.
A new one should be coming out now. A new top 20.
It should be tomorrow, right? Today's Monday. Should be.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, you still got a game tonight.
Okay. Yeah. Your boy, he's not coaching tonight.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second because I want to ask you some questions about that and a couple of other things. Notre Dame stayed in the top 10, I believe, even though they had problems with FSU. And again, a lot of that is because NBC's got to have. Yeah, NBC is going to demand that they stay in the top 10 because that money's got to come from somewhere. North Carolina drops it from 10 with that loss of Virginia Tech.
Oh, yes.
Miami was at 14. They lost to Alabama. I think they stayed in the top 20, but they moved down probably. LSU drops out of the top 25.
Yes.
With that loss to UCLA because UCLA is
they were unranked. Yeah.
Yeah, so they drop out. Texas was at 21. It probably move up because they handled the game and they played one of the Louisiana teams. I can't think of what the team was.
It was the University? It was the University of Louisiana because they were number 23.
They're 23, yeah.
Yes.
So I think Texas probably moves up, and Louisiana may move out.
And that Louisiana school, they're going to probably drop out of the top 25 because they were they at number 23 or 25?
They're 20. They're 23. They're 23, okay. And I use the AP and not the coaches for this.
Oh, okay.
So. They were 23 at the coach in the AP, so they may drop out with that one loss, but they lost to a higher ranked team, and it just depends on how the other teams move around in the top 10 too, and then the rest of them we'll see going forward. But that's the only kind of real movement I see going on in the top 25. The Lane Kiffin game. I want to call it the school because so Kiffin is positive for COVID, so it's not like he can go into the booth and just coach from the booth, right? And he can't be.
He can't even call in. No, right? He can't call in and do anything.
You can't do that, right?
I mean, he can't call in now.
Yeah. The old air quotes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the thing is now, I don't think that's really gonna be an issue. Because who do they play?
Louisville.
Louisville, right? Yeah. So we talked about this before, right? Louisville, one of those teams that, high scoring teams, right? They're just gonna come out there and just start, just tossing the ball around all over the place. Do you think Lane Kiffin is going to try to bring that to the SEC or bring that to this team where he's just going to try to outscore?
Yeah,
Forget defense.
right.
Forget. I'm going to score. If you score 40, I'm going to score 50, and that's how we're just going to do this thing.
That's the same philosophy that the coach at Mississippi State, what is his name,
Mike Leach.
Mike Leach. He's going to do the same thing. They bring that West Coast style offense to the SEC, which I don't think is good for the SEC. They'll score a lot of points, but you won't have any defense. So I know people like to see high scoring, but people want to see defense too. And if Kiffin can if he recruited some good defensive guys, don't just concentrate on one side of the ball. If he got a decent defense, when they played Alabama last year, if he had a decent defense, they would have had a shot at them.
Yeah, yeah.
But every time Alabama touched the ball, they scored, which was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I don't think there might have been one time where they went like a 3 and out. But the rest of the time, they scored 62. They scored every time. That means your defense is just mashed potatoes.
Right. So that leads me to this question to you. Do you think that is his MO going forward? He's just going to try to put up more points than you.
And I think that's his philosophy when he just started coaching. I mean, he had a Tennessee team that had a good defense, but they didn't have the passing attack like he wanted it. He's got the quarterbacks that he wants to throw the ball around. So, yes, he's going to try to just outscore everybody. If he can put up 40, 50 points a game, I think he'll take that. And if somebody else scores 30, 35 or whatever, he'll be pleased with that because he outscored them.
But you don't think that that type of football is going to be welcome in the SEC?
Short term, yes, but long term, no.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it kind of shakes out. Because I know what you mean. When I'm up at 11:30, 12 o'clock on a Friday when I can't sleep, and I turn on some Pac-12 game, Texas Tech and whoever, right? And the only thing you see is the ball flying all over the place. Right.
I can't do it.
It's okay with me, and because I'm really a spectator at that point. I don't really have anything invested. Not like I got anything invested in any of the other team, but I don't have anything emotionally invested into it.
Right.
It's just watching these guys. It's a track meet, right? It's 4 linemen who are all up, who are all in the 2-point stand, and a quarter. They got 2 feet of gap between them. You got 5 wide receivers. It's just.
I mean, it's football to me, but think about it. We're from the South, and you're talking about the Southeastern Conference, which is known for smash mouth football. Now, passing, I can deal with it. But if that's your only MO, is to just sling the ball around, I'm not interested. That's just me. I'm just not interested in that.
No, I'm definitely gonna watch the game tonight because
yes.
That's one of the things. If they come out and in the first 20 plays, they throw the ball 16 times. What's going on, right?
Yeah.
But you also know that if he lives and dies with it, then he's recruiting for it. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
He's saying to himself, "I get it. You guys may not like this right now, but 2 years from now, when I recruited, this guy and this guy and this guy, all these pieces that we can run this offense, effectively, then you'll be thanking me. I just don't know if in Mississippi they're going to be able to wait for that."
But it was tried. And the first person who tried to do that was Steve Spurrier. He tried to bring that fun and gun kind of offense where all he's doing is just throwing the ball all over the field. But he also had a defense that could complement that too.
What do you mean down in South Carolina or
No, down in Florida.
In Florida.
Down in Florida, right.
Yeah.
Because he recruited the quarterbacks that he knew was going to sling the ball. And it was all about a West Coast offense. But he also had the defense that could, that could match up with the offense. If you just got an offense and that's it, and I'm just going to outscore everybody, and my defense is just out there to be a, not even a shield. You just out there just taking
because you got to have 11 guys play defense.
And that's all. Yeah, that's exactly right. You're just going to fill 11 spots out there.
Yeah.
I just can't see that. And you're right. You're in the state of Mississippi doing that too. Nah, that's just not going to get it.
Well, one thing that we all know, Mark, especially from where we're from, that winning cures all, right?
Yeah, it does.
If you win, if you beat, if you win the Egg Bowl, and you play in a couple of Sugar Bowls, and maybe you have big win over Bama and Auburn and Georgia, every year here and there, and your student body can come down and tear the goalpost down.
Winning cures all kind of ills. I get it. But if you're doing that and you're losing the game 60 to 52 or something like that,
they're gonna run you out there on the rail.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta go.
Coach, you 2 plays away from winning this game. What happened?
Yeah,
you
gotta
2
go.
series away. There's no such thing when you're doing that. Listen, when you're doing that kind of offense, to me, if I'm an AD, there's no such thing as a 3 and out. There's no such thing as 3 and out. Because once you do that 3 and out, you ain't got no defense to stop it.
Yeah, you gonna get scored on, right? Every time your boys touch the ball, they got to put up at least 3 to 6. Yeah, they got to put points on the board. Yeah,
you got to put some points on the board. This is your philosophy, and it better work. Because you go out there and you do, if you have 5 3 and outs, and now with them 3 and outs, somebody else has scored 21 points, and you can't make that up, it's not going to work.
It's just like a few years ago. I don't know if you remember when. He coached up at Michigan. Spread offense guy. Barry Alvarez. Not Barry Alvarez.
No, Alvarez was Wisconsin.
Who was the spread offense guy who went up to coach Michigan and tried to?
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. He tried to.
He went away from the smash mouth football that everybody was used to up in Michigan.
He tried to force feed that spread offense to those guys up there, and it ended horribly.
Yes,
horribly.
I'll get his name, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's one of those things when I think about the SEC and somebody like Kiffin coming down trying to run that. Well, Mike Leach is doing it now, so the experiment's already underway.
And Leach, it worked with him when they did it against LSU, but you see what happened the rest of the year. They just got exposed, and you cannot come off the field. You cannot have in a half. You cannot have 7 possessions in a half, and you got 4 3 and outs, 4 or 5 3 and outs. You can't do that.
No.
Not without a good defense.
Not without a good defense, because all they're going to do, I mean, if your defense is going to be just, a sheet of paper out there.
Yeah, basically.
You can get ran off the field every time. I'm trying to pull up that list of Michigan head coaches because you're right.
Was it Brady Hoke? No.
It may have been Brady Hoke.
Was it? No, I don't know.
Either way, it's hard to recruit like that too, because a lot of those guys, Rich Rodriguez.
Yes. Yeah. Rich Rod, yes.
Yeah. So Rich Rodriguez went up there tried to force feed those guys that damn spread offense, man. Hey, that's a 6-7 year process, right? Because you already have that pipeline. You got the kids that are there. That's at least 4 years. and then you got the pipeline that's already been recruited coming in there, and now you're gonna have to kind of change the direction and start recruiting this other type of player.
Right.
And these fan bases.
And you see, they got rid of him just in time because you can really destroy a program for at least 3 years with doing something like that before you can build it back up again.
Absolutely. And not only are you not, and it's because so once you start that type of recruiting, then you say, well, then the next coach comes in and say we're gonna go back to you name the college type of football. Then so now all those kids that you had in the pipeline, all these kids who thought they were going to University X, they're not going to go up there anymore, right? They're going to go to some other school who runs a wide open offense or some type of spread offense, and now you got to go out and try to recruit this other type of player,
right?
And then it's just tacking on time. So, all right, man. Well, this has been a good first show. Been a lot of fun too.
Oh yes, learned a lot. But I want to get back to a Big Four, but we got to look at that and see, and then we can present that to the NCAAs.
So what we're gonna do? Is this is what I think we should do? What we're gonna do is every show we're gonna dedicate a little time.
Okay.
To we got to figure out a couple of things. Right? We got to figure out a name.
Yeah.
For the conferences, it can't just be Northwest, East, and South.
Okay.
Right. And so we got to figure out a name. We got to figure out how many teams.
Right.
Which teams are in. One of the biggest things we have to do is, what about Texas? How we gonna slice up Texas? Right? How we gonna slice up Texas? Because Texas is gonna be
look the way it's going to get sliced, but we'll get to that. You said Lawrence, Kansas, right?
I think the geographical center of the United States. I think it's Lawrence, Kansas.
Then you put that line down. Right there, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, well, I think we'd probably go right through a campus. So we had to figure. It probably got to go right through a dormitory or one of those campuses. Now we got to figure out what we're gonna have to do with SMU. It's right down through Dallas.
Oh man, I'm gonna look at that. I'm gonna look at it. But yes.
All right, man.